"Grandma, don't get in the car." I saw what Dad did. Those words came out of the mouth of my granddaughter Emma, who was barely 7 years old, as she pulled insistently on my arm. She had that serious expression children sometimes get when they think they've discovered something important. I was standing there in front of my own car, suitcase in hand, ready to go home after a weekend I never should have agreed to. What I discovered 10 minutes later saved my life. My name is Alice Reynolds. I am 59 years old, and what I am going to tell you today is something I never imagined I would live through. A truth so dark that it still makes it hard to breathe when I remember it, but today I am telling it, because if I've learned anything, it's that silence protects those who don't deserve it. It all started 3 weeks earlier, on a Thursday afternoon. I was in my living room drinking my usual coffee, watching the news, when my phone rang. It was Ethan, my oldest son, the man I gave life to, whom I raised with my own 2 hands after his father abandoned us when he was just 8 years old. Ethan, who was always distant, serious, and not very affectionate, but who was, at the end of the day, my son. And that day, he was calling me with a different voice. "Mom, how are you?" he said, with a friendly tone. I hadn't heard from him in years. "I'm good, sweetie. And you? Is everything okay with Emma and Paige?" "Yes, Mom. Everything is fine." "Listen, I'm calling because I want to invite you to spend the weekend with us. It's been a long time since you visited. Emma asks about you all the time." I felt something strange in my chest, a mix of joy and distrust. Ethan never invited me over. He almost never called me. And when he did, it was to ask for a loan or to ask about some paperwork regarding my mother's inheritance. But this time, he sounded genuine. "Really, honey?" I asked, my voice breaking slightly. "Of course, Mom. Come up on Friday in your car. Paige is going to cook your favorite pot roast, and Emma is so excited." I hung up the phone with a smile. A naive smile. The smile of a mother who wants to believe that her son finally misses her. How foolish I was. On Friday at noon, I arrived at his house driving my car, a 2015 Honda Accord that I had bought with my savings. It wasn't luxurious, but it was mine, my independence on 4 wheels. Ethan and his family live in a quiet, upscale suburban neighborhood with large houses and well-kept lawns. My son had moved up in the world, I couldn't deny that. He had a good job, a nice car, a beautiful house, but something about that place always made me feel like I didn't belong. Paige greeted me at the door with a polite smile. She was always courteous to me, though distant, as if I were a mandatory, obligatory guest. "Come on in, Alice. Ethan is in the backyard. You can just park your car right there in the driveway." Emma came running from the living room and threw herself into my arms. "Grandma, I'm so glad you came." I hugged her tightly. That little girl was pure light, joyful, affectionate, with those big, curious eyes that observed everything. "Hello, my sweet girl. How have you been?" "Really good." "Look, Grandma, I made a drawing for you at school today." She showed me a picture of the 2 of us together, with a huge sun and colorful flowers. "It's beautiful, honey. I'm going to keep it forever." Ethan appeared in the hallway. "Mom, welcome. Come in, make yourself comfortable. Hand me your keys. I'm going to pull your car into the garage so it doesn't sit out in the sun." He gave me a quick hug, too quick. I handed him the keys, and in that moment, I felt it. Something wasn't right. The weekend passed strangely, very strangely. Ethan treated me with exaggerated kindness. He poured me water before I even asked for it. He constantly asked if I was comfortable. He offered me more food. He smiled at me, but that smile never reached his eyes. Paige barely spoke to me. She spent her time in the kitchen or taking work calls, and I tried to ignore that uncomfortable feeling growing in my chest. On Saturday afternoon, while Paige and Ethan went out to run some errands, I stayed with Emma playing in the backyard. "Grandma, you know what? Yesterday Dad was working on your car." "Oh, really? And what was he doing?" "Yeah, he was underneath your car with his tools. I asked him what he was doing, and he said he was just checking something to make sure it was safe for your drive back home." Emma kept playing with her doll, not giving it a second thought, but I felt a chill run down my spine. Why would Ethan be working on my car? He always took his own cars to the dealership or a mechanic. I had never seen him touch anything mechanical in his life. He didn't even know how to change a tire. I tried to shake the thought. Asterisk. "You're being paranoid, Alice." Asterisk, I told myself. But that night, I couldn't sleep. On Sunday morning, I packed my things early. I didn't want to be there anymore. That discomfort had turned into something much heavier. I went downstairs with my suitcase and set it on the floor next to my car, which was still parked in the garage. Ethan appeared behind me with a mug of coffee in his hand. "Leaving already, Mom?" "Yes, honey. I have things to get done at home." "That's a shame. It was nice having you here." He stepped forward and grabbed my suitcase. "Let me help you." He popped the trunk of my car and placed my bag inside carefully. "All set. Your car is in perfect shape. I made sure everything was good to go. Be careful on the road, Mom. Drive slow." Something in his tone, in the way he said, "drive slow," made my blood run cold. He handed me my car keys. I walked toward the driver's door, and right then, I felt a small hand grabbing my arm insistently. It was Emma. She had that serious expression children get when they want to warn you about something important. "Grandma, don't get in the car." I saw what Dad did. I looked at her, confused. "What did you see, sweetheart?" "Last night, when everyone was asleep, Dad went out to the garage. I got up to get a glass of water and I saw him under your car with his flashlight. He was under there for a long time, and when he finished, he wiped his hands with a black rag and put it in a bag." Emma said it with the innocence of someone recounting a simple observation. She didn't understand the gravity of what she was saying, but I did. My body froze. I looked at Ethan. His back was turned to us, putting something away on a garage shelf. I looked back at my car, and then I saw it. A small, dark puddle beneath the engine, something steadily dripping onto the concrete floor of the garage. To understand why that moment destroyed me inside, I need to tell you who Ethan was before he turned into times this asterisk. I need to go back to the time when my son was just a little boy. A boy who needed me. A boy I loved with every fiber of my being. Because that's what a mother's love is, right? Unconditional, blind, eternal. And that love, that exact same love, is what almost got me killed. Ethan was born on March 23rd at 3:00 inches the morning. It was a difficult birth, 42 hours of agony. But when I held him in my arms for the first time and saw those dark eyes looking at me, I knew I would give my life for him, literally. How ironic, isn't it? His father, Richard, was a hard-working but cold man, the kind of man who believes that providing a paycheck is enough to be a father. He never hugged Ethan, never played catch with him, never told him I love you. I tried to compensate for that emotional void. I was mom and dad at the same time. I read him bedtime stories. I took him to the park every Sunday. I cooked his favorite meals, bought him toys with the little money I made cleaning houses. Ethan was a quiet, serious, observant child. Sometimes that seriousness worried me in someone so young, but his teachers told me he was smart, that he got good grades, that he was respectful. I was proud. Have you ever trusted someone so much that you completely ignore the red flags? Tell me in the comments if something like this has ever happened to you. When Ethan turned 8, Richard left us on a random Tuesday, without a discussion, without a fight. He simply didn't come home from work. 2 days later, I received a call from his sister telling me that Richard had moved to Las Vegas with another woman, that he wasn't coming back, and that I shouldn't try to contact him. I was in shock for weeks. How do you explain to an 8-year-old boy that his father just vanished? Ethan didn't cry when I told him. He didn't ask questions. He just nodded and went to his room. That night, I heard him talking to himself. He was saying, "It doesn't matter. I'm going to grow up and make a lot of money. I'm going to buy you a big house, Mom, and nobody will ever leave us again." I went into his room and hugged him as I cried. "I don't need a big house, sweetie. I just need you. That's enough." He clung to me that night as if I were the only solid thing in his world. And maybe I was. The following years were hard, very hard. I worked 3 jobs to pay for rent, groceries, and Ethan's schooling. I cleaned houses in the mornings, worked retail at a department store in the afternoons, and did laundry for neighbors at night. I slept 4 hours a day. But my son never lacked anything. Ever. Ethan remained a quiet boy, but he studied constantly, obsessively, as if books were his refuge. At 15, he got a scholarship to attend a private prep school. I cried tears of joy the day he got the acceptance letter. "You did it, honey. I'm so proud of you." He just smiled. But it was a strange smile, like he was calculating something. "Thanks, Mom. Someday I'm going to pay you back for everything you've done for me." Those words filled my heart. Oh, how I wanted to believe them. When Ethan went off to college to study business administration, things changed. He started making friends with wealthy families. He began to feel ashamed of our humble house, of my hands rough from so much cleaning, of the way I spoke. One day, he brought home a girl, Paige, the daughter of a prominent corporate executive in the city. She was pretty, elegant, and educated, but she looked at me with pity. "It's so nice to meet you, Mrs. Reynolds," she told me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I had prepared a simple meal: meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and green beans, all made with love. Paige barely touched her food. Ethan ate in silence, refusing to meet my eyes. As they were leaving, I heard Paige say to him at the door, "Your mom is very folksy." I didn't hear Ethan's response. I didn't want to hear it. That night, I cried alone in my kitchen, overwhelmed by the terrible feeling that I was losing my son. Ethan graduated with honors. He landed an excellent job at a multinational firm like Apex Financial. He married Paige in an elegant wedding where I felt completely out of place. They seated me at a table way in the back, far from the head table. Ethan came to say hello to me for a grand total of 5 minutes during the entire reception. "Thanks for coming, Mom." That was it. But I still loved him. I kept hoping that someday he would turn back into that little boy who hugged me in the dark. When Emma was born, 7 years ago, I felt a spark of hope. I went to the hospital the day she was born. Paige was exhausted. Ethan was glued to his phone. I walked over to the bassinet and saw this perfect, tiny baby wrapped in a pink blanket. "Hello, my sweet girl," I whispered. "I'm your grandma." Emma opened her eyes and looked right at me. And in that moment, I felt like I had a purpose again. "Do you want to hold her?" the nurse asked me. "Can I?" "Of course." I took her in my arms so carefully. She smelled like a newborn baby, like a fresh start, like a second chance. Ethan walked over. "Hold her tight, Mom. She's fragile." "I know, honey. I know." And I took care of her every chance they gave me, every time they needed a babysitter because they had an event. Emma grew up being my only connection to Ethan, my only reason to keep calling, to keep trying, to keep believing that somewhere deep down, my son still loved me. But as the years passed, Ethan grew colder, more distant. His calls were increasingly rare, his visits practically non-existent. He only reached out when he needed something. 2 years ago, my mother passed away. She left me a small house in a nearby town and some savings. It wasn't a fortune, but it was something. Ethan showed up 3 days after the funeral. "Mom, we need to talk about the inheritance. You should invest that money. I can help you. I know people who can make it grow." "No, honey, that money is for my living expenses, for my retirement." "But Mom, don't be stupid. If you invest it right, you can triple it." "I don't want any risks, Ethan. I'd rather keep it safe." He got furious. "You've always been like this, settling for less. That's why you never get ahead." It hurt. It hurt so much I couldn't even formulate a reply. He stormed out, slamming the door. I didn't hear from him for 6 months. That's why, when he called me that Thursday inviting me for the weekend, I was so surprised. I wanted to believe he had reflected on things, that he missed his mother, that he wanted to make up for lost time. I wanted to believe in the little boy who once hugged me and promised he'd never leave me alone. I packed my bags with excitement. I bought a present for Emma. I dressed up nicely so I wouldn't embarrass my son. I drove to his house with a smile on my face and a foolish hope in my heart. Hope that my son still loved me. Hope that there was still love left in our relationship. But what I found that weekend, what I discovered under my car, destroyed that hope forever. There I was on Sunday morning, staring at the dark puddle under my car, looking at Emma with her innocent eyes telling me what she had seen, and watching Ethan walk toward us with that fake smile. "Is something wrong, Mom? Why aren't you getting in the car?" My voice came out trembling. "Emma says that you were working on my car last night." Ethan paled for a second, just a split second. Then he smiled. "Oh, yeah. I just checked the oil. It was a little low. You know, Mom, at your age, you have to be more careful with these things. Asterisk, at your age. Asterisk. As if I were a useless old woman. Emma was still clinging to my arm. "Grandma." Everything is fine, sweetheart, I told her. Even though my heart was pounding so hard I thought it would burst out of my chest. I looked at the puddle under my car again. It wasn't oil. Motor oil is thick and dark. This was different. Ethan, what is that dripping? He didn't even look. Probably just water from the AC condensation. Mom, stop worrying so much. But I was worried. Very worried. You know what, honey? I think I better call my mechanic before I leave, just to be safe. Ethan's face changed. For a fraction of a second, I saw something in his eyes, something dark, something that terrified me. There are moments in life when your instincts scream at you that something is terribly wrong. Moments when every cell in your body tells you, asterisk, get away, run, don't trust them. Asterisk, but when that danger comes from your own son, how do you obey that instinct? How do you accept that the person you carried in your womb, whom you nursed at your breast, whom you raised with your own hands, could want to hurt you? No, Mom, there's no need to call a mechanic, Ethan said, and his voice sounded too fast, too urgent. It's just a precaution, honey. I have a long drive back on the highway, and I'd rather be safe. But it's Sunday. Mechanics don't work on Sundays. Mine does. Frank always answers. He's very reliable. I pulled my phone out of my pocket. Ethan took a step toward me. Mom, seriously, it's not necessary. I'm telling you the car is fine. Don't you trust me? That question fell like a boulder between us. Emma was still holding my hand. I could feel her little fingers squeezing mine tightly. I looked my son in the eyes, and for the first time in my 59 years of life, I doubted him. Of course I trust you, honey, but I'd prefer a professional to look at it, just for my peace of mind. I dialed Frank's number. Ethan clenched his jaw. I could see his hands curling into fists at his sides. Well, if that gives you peace of mind, he finally said, turning around. I'm going inside. It's hot out here. He marched into the house with quick, stiff steps. Emma looked up at me with those big eyes. Did I do something bad, Grandma? I knelt down to her level and stroked her hair. No, my sweet girl. Everything is fine. Thank you for telling me what you saw. You are very observant. It's just that Dad never fixes cars, so I thought it was weird. You're right, honey. Very weird. The phone rang 3 times before Frank answered. Hello, Frank. Good morning. It's Alice Reynolds. Mrs. Reynolds, how are you? What can I do for you? I'm sorry to bother you on a Sunday, Frank, but I need you to come check my car. I'm at my son's house, and there's something leaking from under the engine. I don't know if it's serious. Where exactly are you, ma'am? I gave him the address. I'll be there in 40 minutes. Don't move from there, all right? If it's leaking fluid, do not start the engine under any circumstances. Thank you, Frank. I'll be waiting. I hung up. 40 minutes. 40 minutes to find out if my suspicions were just the paranoia of a tired mother, or something much worse. Paige came out of the house holding a mug of coffee. What's going on, Alice? Ethan just stormed inside, looking really upset. Nothing major, Paige. I just called my mechanic to check the car before I hit the road. She raised an eyebrow. Why? Is there a problem? I don't know. Something's leaking. I'd rather be sure. Paige looked at my car and then back at the house where Ethan had vanished. Ethan checked your car last night. He said he wanted to make sure it was in good shape for your trip back. That's what I was told. So, I don't think there's any problem. My husband is very careful with those things. Her tone was defensive, as if I were accusing Ethan of something. And maybe I was. Emma had wandered off to play with her bouncy ball on the lawn. She hopped around happily, completely oblivious to the tension suffocating the air. Paige took a sip of her coffee and stared at me. You know, Alice, sometimes I think you're too distrustful. Distrustful? Yeah. Ethan always tells me that when he was growing up, you never trusted anyone, that you double-checked everything, questioned everything, that you never believed things could just turn out fine. Her words stung. I just wanted to protect him, Paige. It was just him and me. I had to be careful. Well, sometimes that protection feels like control, like you don't trust the decisions of your own son. I stayed quiet. I didn't know what to say. Paige sighed. Look, I don't want to argue. I'm just saying Ethan went out of his way to make this a nice weekend. And you always find something to fret about. She turned on her heel and went back inside. I stood there next to my car, feeling the doubts eat me alive from the inside out. Paige was right. I was being paranoid. Was I ruining a genuine attempt from my son to reconnect with me? I looked down at the dark stain under the engine block. No, it wasn't paranoia. Something was wrong. The next 30 minutes felt like an eternity. I sat in a patio chair watching Emma play, trying to stay calm. Ethan didn't come outside. Neither did Paige. I could feel the tension radiating from inside the house, like they were in there talking about me, annoyed by me. At the 5-minute mark, my phone rang. It was Ethan. "Yes, honey. Look, Paige and I think it's better if you cancel the mechanic. We don't want you spending money on something that's probably nothing. If you want, I'll take it to a shop first thing tomorrow morning and have them look it over properly." "No, Ethan. I'd prefer them to look at it right now." "Mom, are you overreacting?" "I am not overreacting. It's my car, and it's my decision." Silence. "Whatever you want," he finally said, and hung up. My heart pounded. Why was he so desperate for me not to call the mechanic? Why was he so nervous? While I tell you this, I can't help but wonder. Have you ever felt that someone close to you was hiding something? Type in the comments where you are listening to me right now. Frank arrived exactly 40 minutes later. He was a man in his mid-60s with pure white hair and hands perpetually stained with grease. He had been my family's mechanic for over 20 years. "Mrs. Reynolds, here I am. Let's take a look at this car." "Thank you for coming, Frank." We walked over to my Honda. Emma wandered over, curious. "Who is he, Grandma?" "This is Frank, sweetie. He's the man who fixes my car." Frank crouched down and looked under the engine. He swiped 2 fingers across the concrete and smelled the fluid. His face instantly changed. "Mrs. Reynolds, this isn't water. And it's not oil either." "What is it?" "It's brake fluid." My whole body turned to ice. "Brake fluid?" "Yeah. And it's leaking fast. Let me get a better look." He popped the hood of the Accord and began inspecting the lines with a heavy-duty flashlight. Emma and I just stood there, watching him work. Ethan finally came out of the house, his hands shoved deep into his pockets. He strolled toward us at a leisurely pace. "What does the mechanic say?" Frank didn't answer him. He was totally focused, inspecting something underneath the chassis with his light. After 5 minutes that felt like 5 agonizing hours, he stood up. His face was dead serious. "Mrs. Reynolds, can I speak with you privately for a moment?" "Of course." We took a few steps away. Ethan watched us from a distance. Frank lowered his voice to a whisper. "Ma'am, the brake lines are cut. Yes, it's not natural wear and tear. It's not an accident. Someone sliced them with something sharp, a knife or a box cutter. And they did it recently, because the fluid is still fresh." I felt the earth shift beneath my feet. Are you sure?" 100%. If you had driven this car..." He paused. "Ma'am, your brakes would have failed on the very first hill, on the very first curve. You would have lost total control." My legs gave out. Frank caught my arm, holding me up. "Are you all right?" I know this is a lot, ma'am, but this wasn't a mistake. It was intentional." I looked over at Ethan, my son, my own flesh and blood. He was watching us with a blank face, a face devoid of any emotion whatsoever, and in that exact second, I knew. I knew it with every fiber of my being. Ethan wanted to kill me. "What am I going to do, Frank?" I whispered, my voice cracking. "The first thing is, you cannot drive this car. It is completely unsafe. And the second thing, ma'am, this is a felony. You have to report it to the police." "He's my son, Frank." "I know. But that doesn't change what he did." I looked over at Emma, playing innocently on the grass. She had no idea what she had just saved me from. What she had prevented with her simple observation. If she hadn't said anything to me, if I had gotten into that car, if I had hit highway speeds, I would have died, and everyone would have thought it was a tragic accident. That the brakes failed due to age, poor maintenance, bad luck. No one would have suspected a thing. And Ethan would have collected my life insurance, my house, my savings, everything. Tears began to spill down my cheeks. "How much does it cost to fix the car, Frank?" "This isn't about money, ma'am. It's about justice. You have to." "Please," I interrupted him. "I need to think. I need to process this." Frank nodded sadly. All right. But promise me you won't stay quiet. Promise me you'll do something. I promise. Can it be fixed today? I can have it repaired in 2 hours. I can call my son at the shop to bring the replacement lines, and we can fix it right here in the driveway. But Mrs. Reynolds, the car isn't the problem here. The problem is what that boy tried to do to you. I nodded, unable to speak. Ethan walked over to us. What's going on? What does the mechanic say? Frank looked at me, waiting for me to take the lead. I took a deep breath and decided to act as if I didn't know the horrific truth. He says there's a leak in the brake lines. It needs to be repaired. See, Mom? I told you it wasn't a big deal. Just a leak. His voice sounded calm, almost relieved. Yes, honey, just a leak. But my eyes never left his, and in that moment, he knew. He knew that times knew. I saw it in the way his jaw tightened, in the way he swallowed hard. Well, let the guy fix it, then, Ethan said with forced indifference. I'm going inside. I have work to do. He turned his back and casually walked into the house, hands in his pockets, as if nothing had happened, as if he hadn't just tried to murder his own mother. There are truths the human heart simply rejects. Truths so painful, so impossible, so contrary to everything we believe, that the brain refuses to accept them. For the next 2 hours, while Frank and his son repaired my car in Ethan's driveway, I sat in the patio chair like a statue, staring, thinking, denying. Asterisk, it can't be true. Asterisk, I repeated over and over. Asterisk, there has to be another explanation. My son wouldn't do this. My son couldn't do this to me. Asterisk. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw Frank's dead serious face telling me those terrible words. Asterisk, the lines are cut. Someone did it with a knife. If you had driven this car, you would have lost total control. Asterisk. Emma wandered over, holding her bouncy ball. Grandma, are you sad? I tried to force a smile. No, my love, I'm just a little tired. Do you want to play catch with me? I'd love to. I stood up and we tossed the ball back and forth. She giggled every time she caught it. A clean, innocent, radiant laugh. And I thought to myself, asterisk, this little girl saved my life without even knowing it. Asterisk, without understanding the gravity of what she saw, simply by being observant, by being honest. How many times do we stay quiet when we see something strange? How many times do we ignore our gut instincts for fear of overreacting? How many times does silence cost us everything? Emma didn't stay quiet, and because of that, I was still alive. Paige came out the back door carrying a pitcher of sweet iced tea. Do you want some tea, Alice? Yes, thank you. She poured me a glass and sat down next to me on the patio furniture. Emma went back to playing by herself, bouncing her ball against the brick wall. Ethan is really stressed out, Paige said after a long, uncomfortable silence. Oh, is he? Yes. He says you made him look bad in front of the mechanic. That you acted like he did something wrong. I took a slow sip of the cold tea so I wouldn't have to answer immediately. It wasn't my intention to make him look bad. I just wanted the car checked. But he had already checked it last night. Do you really not trust your own son? There it was again. That question. Asterisk, do you really not trust your own son? Asterisk, as if trust were a legal obligation. As if doubting him was an unforgivable sin. Paige, they found that the brake lines were cut. She slammed her glass down on the glass-top table with a sharp thud. Cut? That's impossible. It has to be a mistake by the mechanic. Or natural wear and tear. You can't be insinuating that. I'm not insinuating anything. I'm just telling you what the mechanic found. Paige stood up abruptly. Alice, I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but Ethan would never do something like that. He's your son. For God's sake. How could you even think something so horrific? I don't want to think anything horrific, Paige, but the facts are right there. The facts, she repeated sarcastically. The facts are that you come here after going months without visiting us, after Ethan invited you with so much love, and now you're accusing him of, I can't even say it. I am not accusing him of anything. Yes, you are. With your attitude, with your words, with your paranoia. Do you know how much effort it took for Ethan to invite you? He's been wanting to reach out to you for months, but he's always terrified you'll just reject him. I stayed completely silent. Asterisk effort? Months wanting to reach out? Asterisk. If that were true, why had he sabotaged my car? Paige, I didn't. Alice, I've heard enough. I think it's best if you leave as soon as the mechanic is done. And I think we all need some time to process this situation. She turned around and stormed into the house, leaving the words dying in my throat. Emma stopped playing and looked at me with deep concern. My mommy is mad at you, Grandma. Just a little bit, sweetie. But don't worry, grown-ups have disagreements sometimes. How do you explain to a 7-year-old that her grandmother suspects her father of attempted murder? How do you explain something that I couldn't even fully accept myself? It's complicated, my love. But don't you worry, everything is going to be all right. She nodded and went back to her game. But I knew nothing was going to be all right. Nothing. An hour later, Frank walked out of the garage, wiping his hands with a rag. Mrs. Reynolds, the car is ready. We replaced the lines and bled the whole brake system. It is 100% safe to drive now. Thank you, Frank. What do I owe you? $400 for parts and labor. I pulled the cash out of my purse and handed it to him. Here you go. He took the money, but he didn't move. He stood there, looking at me with deep concern lining his face. Ma'am, what are you going to do? What do you mean? You know exactly what I mean. This cannot just be swept under the rug. You have to report him. He's my son, Frank. And he almost killed you. Ma'am, son or no son, you don't just forgive something like that. I fell silent, looking toward the house where Ethan was still barricaded inside. I need time to think. There isn't much to think about, Mrs. Reynolds. The evidence is clear. I can be a witness. I will testify to what I saw. The severed lines, the intentional damage. This was no accident, I know. So, Frank, please, let me process this my own way. I appreciate everything you've done, truly, but I need to be alone right now. He sighed heavily. All right, ma'am, but please, watch your back, and if you need anything at all, you call me. You hear me? I hear you. Thank you for everything. Frank and his son packed up their truck and pulled away. I stood there staring at my repaired car, the car that was almost my steel coffin. Ethan walked out of the house the moment he saw the mechanic's truck leave. He strolled toward me, hands in his pockets, that casual posture, that completely emotionless face. Are they gone? How much did they charge? $400. He pulled out his wallet. Let me pay for half of it. After all, the car broke down while it was parked at my house. Asterisk. Broke down. Asterisk. As if it were an act of nature. As if he hadn't been the one to destroy it. That's not necessary, Ethan. I insist, Mom. He pulled out $200 bills and held them out to me. I looked at the cash. I looked into his eyes, and I felt a rage I had never experienced in my entire life, a blinding, burning rage that scorched my insides like wildfire. But I swallowed it. I locked it away in the deepest corner of my chest. Thank you, honey. I took the money. He smiled. See? Everything worked out fine. You can head home now. Drive safe. Asterisk. Drive safe. Asterisk. As if he gave a damn about my safety. As if he hadn't just tried to murder me. Yes, Ethan, I'm going to drive very safely. A heavy, suffocating silence hung between us. He stared at me. I stared back. And in that moment, a silent conversation took place. He knew that I knew, and I knew that he knew that I knew. But neither of us said a word. Paige came out the front door holding the suitcase I had left in the hallway. Here's your bag, Alice. We already put it in the trunk for you. Thank you, Paige. You're welcome. Her tone was ice cold, distant, like I was a hostile stranger who had barged in to cause trouble. Emma came running and wrapped her arms around my legs. Are you leaving, Grandma? Yes, my sweet girl. It's time for me to go home. When are you coming back? I looked at Ethan. I looked at Paige. I don't know, honey, but you can call me whenever you want, okay? Promise me? I promise. I hugged her tight, so tight that she giggled. Grandma, you're squeezing me too hard. I'm sorry, my love. It's just because I love you so much. I love you too, Grandma. I leaned down and whispered directly into her ear. Thank you for telling me what you saw. You helped me a lot. She nodded, not fully comprehending. I stood up and walked to my car. Ethan and Paige stood side by side on the porch, watching me. I got into the driver's seat, gripped the steering wheel, and for a terrifying, fleeting moment, I wondered if Frank had really fixed the brakes properly. Or if Ethan had sabotaged them again while Frank wasn't looking. What if this car was still a death trap? My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my eardrums. I took a deep breath, closed my eyes, and right then and there, I made my decision. I was not going to stay quiet. I was not going to let my son get away with this. I was not going to be a silent victim. I turned the key. The engine purred normally. I pressed my foot gently on the brake pedal. It felt firm. I felt an enormous wave of relief. I checked my rearview mirror. Ethan was still standing on the porch, his face a blank mask. Paige had her arm around his waist. Emma was waving her little hand, saying goodbye. I backed slowly out of the driveway. I drove through the winding streets of Oak Creek Estates, and once I was safely out of their neighborhood, I pulled over. I took out my phone and dialed the police. My hands shook violently. A part of my brain was screaming, "Asterisk, don't do it. He's your son. They're going to lock him up. He's going to prison." Asterisk. But another part of me, a stronger, wiser, infinitely more exhausted part, whispered back, "Asterisk. If you don't do this, he will try again. And next time, he might succeed." Asterisk. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. "Police dispatch. What is your emergency?" I took a deep breath. "Good afternoon. I need to report a crime." "What kind of crime are we talking about, ma'am?" My voice trembled, but it was resolute. "Attempted murder." Dead silence on the other end of the line. "Can you give me more details, ma'am?" My son sabotaged my car. He cut the brake lines. If I had driven that car onto the highway, I would be dead." "Are you absolutely sure about this?" 100%. I have a witness. The mechanic who repaired the car can confirm the damage was intentional." "I understand. Where are you currently located?" "I'm parked near my son's house, right outside Oak Creek Estates." "Okay. Can you come down to the precinct to file a formal report?" "Yes. Yes. I can head there right now." "Perfect. Come to the Central Precinct. When you arrive, ask for Detective Miller. He handles these types of investigations and will assist you personally." "Thank you. One more question, ma'am. Are you in immediate physical danger right now?" I looked in the rearview mirror toward Ethan's subdivision. "I don't know. But I don't want to take any chances." "Understood. Come straight here. We'll be waiting for you." I hung up. The tears finally spilled over. Tears of grief, of betrayal, of rage, of infinite sadness. How had it come to this? How did the little boy who once clung to me, sobbing, promising he'd never leave me alone, turn into a man who wanted me dead? I drove to the police precinct with a white-knuckle grip on the steering wheel. The drive felt like an eternity. Every stoplight, every turn, every passing second. And in my mind, I could only see one image. 8-year-old Ethan crying in my lap the night his father abandoned us. Asterisk. "It doesn't matter, Mom. I'm going to grow up and make a lot of money. I'm going to buy you a big house. And nobody will ever leave us again." Asterisk. When did that scared little boy turn into the man who just tried to assassinate me? When did love twist into greed? When did I stop being his mother and start being an obstacle? I had no answers. I only had heartache and one horrifying certainty. My son was willing to kill me for a payout. I pulled into the precinct parking lot 40 minutes later. It was a bleak, gray building with barred windows and police cruisers lined up out front. I stepped out of my car, my legs feeling like jelly. I walked into the lobby. "Good afternoon. I need to file a report." I was told to ask for Detective Miller. The desk sergeant, a young woman in uniform, looked up sharply. "Your name, ma'am?" "Alice Reynolds." "One moment, please." She made a quick phone call. A few minutes later, a man in his early 40s, wearing a shirt and tie, walked out. He had a serious but compassionate demeanor. "Mrs. Reynolds? I'm Detective Miller. Please, follow me." I followed him down a linoleum hallway into a small interview room with a desk, 2 chairs, and a recording device on the table. "Have a seat." I sat down. He sat across from me and opened a notepad. "Tell me exactly what happened. Leave no detail out." And so, I spilled it all. I told him about Ethan's sudden, out-of-the-blue invitation, about the bizarre, tense weekend, about Emma's innocent warning, the dark puddle under the car, Frank's horrifying discovery, the cleanly severed brake lines, about my own son wanting me dead. I talked for nearly an hour. Detective Miller took copious notes, never interrupting me, listening intently to every single word. When I finally finished, he set his pen down and looked at me gravely. Mrs. Reynolds, what you're alleging here is extremely serious. Are you fully aware of the implications of filing this report? Yes. My son could go to prison for a very long time. I know. And even knowing that, do you want to proceed with pressing charges? I closed my eyes. I took a deep breath. I thought of Emma, her little voice saying, "Asterisk, Grandma, don't get in the car." Asterisk, I thought of all the mothers in the world who swallowed their truths out of fear, out of shame, out of a misguided sense of love. I thought of the life I almost lost. I opened my eyes and looked, Detective Miller dead in the face. Yes, I want to press charges. Detective Miller opened a new file folder and began filling out official forms. I need your son's full legal name, his address, his place of employment if you know it, and any other relevant information. My voice came out robotic, mechanical, as if I were giving the stats of a complete stranger and not the man I had carried in my womb for 9 months. Ethan Robert Reynolds, 33 years old. He lives at 247 Oak Creek Drive. He works at Apex Financial as a finance manager. The detective wrote rapidly. Is he married? Yes. To Paige Reynolds. They have a 7-year-old daughter. The little girl witnessed part of the incident. She was the one who warned me, but she doesn't understand the severity of what she saw. She just saw her dad working under my car late at night. To her, it was just an innocent observation. Understood. Do you have any idea what the motive might be? Why would your son do this? That question felt like a punch to the gut. The motive, asterisk money. It was always about the money, asterisk. My mother passed away 2 years ago, I began explaining. She left me a house and some savings. It's not a massive fortune, but it's something. About $150,000 total. Ethan wanted me to give him access to that money so he could invest it. He pressured me constantly. We got into a huge fight over it a few months ago, and we stopped speaking entirely. And do you have a life insurance policy? Yes. For $300,000, my son is the sole beneficiary. Detective Miller stopped writing and looked right at me. $450,000 in total. That is a very strong motive. I know. Does your son have financial troubles? Not that I know of. He has a great job, a beautiful house. I paused. But a few years ago, before my mother died, Ethan asked me for a loan. He said he was in debt. I lent him $1,000. He never paid me back. Do you know what kind of debt we're talking about? No. He never gave me details, and I didn't want to press him. He was my son. I trusted him. The detective nodded. I'm going to need your mechanic's contact info. Frank, correct? Yes, Frank Ochoa. I gave him the shop's phone number. He can testify to the condition of the vehicle, about the brake lines being intentionally severed. He's an expert. He's been a mechanic for over 30 years. Perfect. I'll reach out to him first thing tomorrow morning to get his official statement. We are also going to need a forensics unit to inspect your car to thoroughly document the damage. I have to leave my car here for a few days? Yes, ma'am. It's evidence. We need photographs, a forensic analysis. Everything has to be documented perfectly for the district attorney. I felt a lump in my throat. My car. My independence. My way of moving through the world. But if that was what it took to make Ethan pay for what he did, that's fine. You can keep the car as long as you need to. Detective Miller closed his notepad and leaned back in his chair. Mrs. Reynolds, I need to ask you a difficult question. Go ahead. Do you want us to arrest your son immediately, or would you prefer we conduct a deeper investigation first? I didn't understand. What's the difference? If we arrest him right now based purely on your statement and the mechanics, he could bail out in 48 hours. And if he posts bail, he could be a danger to you. He might try to intimidate you into dropping the charges, or worse. I shuddered. If we investigate first, we can subpoena his bank records, his internet history, look for harder evidence, and see if anyone else is involved. This takes more time, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, but when we do arrest him, the case will be ironclad. It will be much harder for a judge to grant bail. And in the meantime, he'll be free? Yes, but he won't know we're investigating him. To him, everything will seem normal. And will I be safe? That is a question only you can answer, ma'am. Do you believe your son would try to hurt you in a different way if he suspects you reported him? I fell silent. Asterisk, would he? Asterisk, Ethan would be entirely capable of trying again. I thought of his face when I said goodbye. That cold stare. That fake smile. I thought about how he handed me cash to help fix the very car he had just sabotaged. I thought about his voice telling me, "Drive slow," like a threat wrapped in fake concern. I don't know, I admitted finally. A month ago, I would have sworn my son would never hurt me, but now, I don't know what he's capable of. Detective Miller nodded sympathetically. Look, I'll be blunt with you. In cases like this, where a large payout is involved, the danger doesn't magically end with a police report. Sometimes it escalates. That's why I need you to take precautions. What kind of precautions? Do not stay in your house alone at night. If you can, stay with a trusted friend or family member. Do not accept any food or drink from your son. Change your daily routines. Do not be predictable. And if you feel threatened for even a second, you call 911 immediately. Every word he spoke made the terror swell in my chest. This was real. This wasn't a nightmare I could just wake up from. My son literally wanted me dead. There's something else I need to ask, the detective said after a moment. Is Paige, your daughter-in-law, aware of any of this? I don't know. She fiercely defended Ethan when I called the mechanic. She acted like I was being paranoid, like I was losing my mind. Do you think she could be involved? That question froze my blood. Paige. Would she know what Ethan was planning? I remembered what she had said to me that morning. Asterisk. Sometimes that protection feels like control, like you don't trust the decisions of your own son. Asterisk, I remembered her ice-cold demeanor all weekend. I remembered how she barely looked at me. I honestly don't know, I replied truthfully. But if she knew what Ethan was going to do and didn't warn me, then she's guilty too, isn't she? Legally, yes. It's called conspiracy or being an accessory, but that's something we'll have to uncover in the investigation. Asterisk, another member of my family could go to prison. Asterisk, the mother of my granddaughter. Emma would be left without a father and a mother. The thought ripped me apart. And the little girl? I asked, my voice quivering. If you arrest Ethan and Paige, what happens to Emma? Detective Miller sighed. Child Protective Services would step in to take temporary custody. They usually try to find a close relative to place the child with. Is there anyone else in the family? Me. I'm her grandmother. I'm her only close family. Then they would likely place her with you under a temporary foster custody arrangement while the case plays out. Emma. My sweet little Emma. Living with me, ripped away from her parents. How do you explain to a 7-year-old girl that her daddy tried to murder her grandma? How do you help her process a trauma like that? Tears began to stream down my face uncontrollably. This is a nightmare, I whispered. An absolute nightmare. The detective slid a box of tissues across the desk. I am so sorry, Mrs. Reynolds. I know this is incredibly painful, but you are doing the right thing. Asterisk, the right thing. Asterisk, I repeated bitterly. Asterisk, the right thing is sending my own son to prison. The right thing is destroying my granddaughter's life. Asterisk, the right thing is protecting your life and protecting other potential victims in the future. If your son is capable of doing this to his own mother, what else would he be willing to do for a payout? He was right. I knew he was right, but that didn't make the pain any less agonizing. Detective Miller stood up. I'm going to process your statement tonight. Tomorrow morning, I'll contact Frank and the forensics team. We'll have a complete preliminary report in a couple of days. In the meantime, do you have somewhere to stay? I have a friend, Linda. Can I stay with her for a few days? Perfect. Do that, and keep your phone close by. Here is my direct card. He handed me a business card. Asterisk, Detective Mark Miller, Homicide and Major Crimes Unit, City Police Department. Asterisk, I put it in my purse with shaking hands. And now what? Now you go to a safe place. You rest, and you let us do our job. I'll call you in a few days to give you an update on the investigation, and if Ethan reaches out to you, do not pick up the phone. Do not speak with him. Any communication can be used against you in court. If he texts or emails, document it. Record any voicemails if you can. All of that serves as evidence. I nodded, trying to absorb the flood of information. One last thing, Mrs. Reynolds. This is going to be grueling. There will be moments when you'll want to give up, withdraw your statement, feel guilty, sad, and full of doubt. But I need you to stay strong. I need you to remember why you're doing this. Why am I doing this? Because your life matters. Because you deserve to live. And because nobody, not even your own son, has the right to take that away from you. His words broke me. I cried. I cried like I hadn't cried in years. I cried for the son I had lost, for the little boy he used to be, for the relationship we would never have. I cried for Emma, for her innocence, for the agony that was about to rain down on her. I cried for myself, the naive mother who always believed that love was enough. Detective Miller let me cry without interrupting. When I finally gathered myself, I wiped my tears and stood up. Thank you, Detective Miller. You don't need to thank me, ma'am. Just follow my instructions. Please, be careful out there. I walked out of that precinct with my legs trembling and my heart shattered into a million pieces. It was 7 p.m. when I stepped outside. The sky was dark, the streets lit by the orange glow of street lamps. I hailed a cab because my car was now locked up as police evidence. Where to, ma'am? I gave him Linda's address, my lifelong best friend. During the ride, I pulled out my cell phone. I had 5 missed calls from Ethan, 3 text messages. I read them with a racing pulse. Asterisk, message 1. 5:30 p.m. Mom, did you make it home safe? Let me know, please. Asterisk, message 2. 6:15 p.m. Mom, I'm worried. Why aren't you answering? Asterisk, message 3. 6:45 p.m. If you're upset about the car thing, we can talk about it. Don't be mad. Call me. Asterisk. I read those messages over and over again. Asterisk, worried. Asterisk, mad about the car thing. Asterisk. He knew perfectly well why I wasn't answering. He knew that I knew. These texts were pure theater. Pure manipulation. In case I decided to report him, he already had proof that he was a concerned, loving son. The rage flared up again in my chest. I didn't reply to a single message. I blocked his number entirely. If he wanted to speak to me, he would have to do it through lawyers. I arrived at Linda's house at 7:30. She opened the door with a warm smile that instantly vanished when she saw my face. Alice, what happened? Are you okay? No, Linda, I'm not okay. She hugged me right there on the threshold, and I broke down again. Come in. Tell me what happened. We walked into her living room. She made me a cup of chamomile tea, sat beside me on the couch, and I told her everything. From the very beginning to the bitter end. Linda listened in stunned silence, her eyes growing wider and wider, her hand covering her mouth. When I finished, she was crying too. Oh my God, Alice, I can't believe it. Ethan? Your Ethan? Yes, my Ethan. But he was always so polite, so proper. Proper on the outside. But inside, I don't know what happened to him. Linda shook her head. This is Paige's fault. She changed him. Ever since he married her, Ethan became a different person. I don't know if it's Paige's fault, or if Ethan was always like this and I just refused to see it. So, what are you going to do now? Stay here with you for a few days, if I can, until the police tell me what happens next. Of course you can stay here as long as you need. This is your home too. I hugged her with immense gratitude. Thank you, Linda. I don't know what I'd do without you. That's what best friends are for, Alice. The good times and the bad. And this is definitely the bad. That night, I slept in Linda's guest room. But in reality, I didn't sleep at all. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything that had happened. Thinking about Ethan as a child, his eyes filled with tears the night his father abandoned us. Thinking about Ethan as a teenager, his obsession with money, with getting ahead, with being someone important. Thinking about Ethan as an adult, his cold stare, his fake smile, his hands cutting the brake lines of my car while everyone else slept. At what exact moment did he break? At what point did love curdle into hatred? Or was there never any real love to begin with? Only need? Only convenience? I had no answers, only agonizing questions gnawing at my soul. At 3:00 the morning, my phone buzzed. It was a text message from an unknown number. I opened it. Asterisk, I know what you did, Mom. You're going to regret it. Asterisk. My blood turned to ice. It was Ethan. He had used a burner phone or an app to contact me, and he was threatening me. I immediately took a screenshot and sent it directly to Detective Miller with a message. Asterisk, I just received this. It's from my son. Asterisk. The reply came back 5 minutes later. Asterisk, perfect. Save everything. This is evidence of witness intimidation. It only strengthens our case. Are you in a safe location right now? Asterisk. Asterisk. Yes. I'm at my friend's house. Asterisk. Asterisk. Good. Do not reply to that message. If he contacts you again, document it and send it to me. Try to get some rest, Mrs. Reynolds. We will talk in the morning. Asterisk. I muted my phone and set it on the nightstand, but I couldn't close my eyes anymore, because now I knew, with absolute certainty, something I had only suspected before. My son didn't just want my money, he wanted my silence. And if he didn't get it, he would try to kill me again. There are truths that strike like lightning in the dead of night, truths that illuminate everything with a painful, blinding clarity and show you the exact path you walked to reach the edge of the abyss. That truth struck me at 5 a.m. while I stared at the ceiling in Linda's guest room. The truth was simple and devastating. I had raised a man capable of murder, and somehow, without meaning to, without knowing it, I had helped create that monster. I got up before sunrise. I couldn't lie there pretending I was going to sleep. I went downstairs to Linda's kitchen, brewed a pot of coffee, and sat by the window watching the sky turn from pitch black to gray, from gray to pale pink, and I began to remember. Not the sweet memories I had shared with the detective, not the idealized nostalgia. This time, I remembered the red flags. The warning signs I had ignored, the signs I had justified, the signs I had buried under layers and layers of blind love. Ethan was 11 years old when I found money hidden in his backpack. It was a $50 bill, crumpled and stuffed inside a textbook. "Honey, where did you get this?" I asked him that afternoon. He didn't even look up from his homework. "I found it on the street." "You found it?" "Yeah, it was just lying on the sidewalk near the school." Something in his tone made me doubt him, but he was just a boy, and $50 wasn't a fortune. "Ethan, if you took this money from someone, you have to tell me the truth." He finally looked at me with those dark, serious eyes. "I told you the truth, Mom. I found it. Do you not believe me?" And there it was. That question he would ask me 1,000 times more in the years to come. Asterisk, do you not believe me? Asterisk, as if doubting him was an unforgivable betrayal. "I believe you, honey," I finally said. But I didn't. I knew he was lying. And what did I do? Nothing. I put the money in his piggy bank and never mentioned it again. Ethan was 14 when a kid at his middle school showed up with a black eye. The principal called me in. They said there had been a fight, that Ethan had punched the boy. "Is it true?" I asked him in the car ride home. He exploded. "Mom, he insulted me." "What did he say?" "He said we were poor, that we lived in a crappy house, that my mom cleans toilets for a living." My heart broke. Not because of what that boy had said, but because of the sheer shame in Ethan's eyes. "Honey, there is nothing wrong with being poor. There is nothing wrong with cleaning toilets. It's honest, hard work." "For you there isn't. But for me, yes." "Mom, you don't understand. Everyone at school has more money than us. Everyone has nicer things. And I have to wear hand-me-downs and shoes with holes in them. I'm doing the best I can, Ethan." "I know. But it's not enough." Those words hurt me worse than any insult. Asterisk, it's not enough. Asterisk, I was never enough for him. And instead of teaching him gratitude, instead of teaching him humility, I consoled him. I hugged him and promised him that someday we would have more, that someday he wouldn't have to be ashamed of me. What a colossal mistake. Ethan was 19 when I discovered he had forged my signature to open a credit card in my name. A statement arrived in the mail showing a balance of $3,000. Purchases at electronics stores, expensive clothing boutiques, high-end restaurants. When I confronted him, he didn't even deny it. I needed those things, Mom, to fit in at college. I can't walk around looking like a bum. You forged my signature, Ethan. You stole my identity without my permission. I was going to pay it back, Mom, as soon as I got an internship. This is credit card fraud, Ethan. You could go to jail for this, but I'm not going to. Because you're not going to report me. Because I'm your son. He was right. I didn't report him. I paid off that $3,000 debt by working extra shifts for 6 grueling months. I ended up apologizing to him times for getting so angry, and he never paid me back a single dime. Linda came down to the kitchen at 7 a.m. and found me crying, an empty coffee mug gripped in my hands. Oh, Alice. She sat next to me and hugged me tight. It was my fault, Linda. What was your fault? What Ethan turned into. It was my fault. Don't say that. It's true. I allowed it. I saw the signs, and I ignored them. I justified everything because I was terrified of losing him. You were a good mother, Alice. No. I was a weak mother. I was a mother who confused love with complicity. Linda didn't know what to say in response because she knew I was right. At 9 a.m., Detective Miller called me. Good morning, Mrs. Reynolds. How did you sleep? I didn't sleep much. I imagine not. I have news. Frank came in this morning to give his official statement. His testimony is rock solid. He's fully prepared to testify in front of a jury if it goes to trial. That's good, right? Very good. I also sent our forensics unit to inspect your vehicle. They confirmed exactly what Frank stated. The brake lines were intentionally severed with a sharp object. This was no accident. It wasn't wear and tear. It was deliberate, premeditated sabotage. I squeezed my eyes shut. And now comes the complicated part, he continued. I need your authorization to subpoena your son's financial records. How do I do that? With a warrant. But to get a judge to sign off on a warrant, I need more evidence establishing a financial motive. Do you have any documents proving that Ethan owed you money? A contract? An IOU? Text message? I thought for a moment. I have text messages. From a few years ago, when he asked me for the loan, he texted me asking for the cash, and I wired it to him. I have the bank transfer receipts. Perfect. I need you to email all of that to me today, if possible. I will. I also want to ask you something else. Your mother left a will. Yes. She left everything to me. Ethan was not named as a beneficiary. He knew that? Yes. He was furious when he found out. He said my mother had been unfair, that he was her grandson too, that he deserved his cut. And what did you tell him? I told him my mother made that decision because Ethan never visited her. He never cared about her when she was sick. My mother was very clear the money was for me because I was the one who took care of her until the very end. How did Ethan react? He stopped speaking to me for months, until he called me 3 weeks ago, inviting me up for the weekend. There was a heavy, significant silence on the other end of the line. Mrs. Reynolds, do you realize what this means? What? That your son planned this far in advance. It wasn't an impulse. It wasn't a temporary moment of insanity. He invited you to his house specifically so he could gain access to your car and sabotage it. This was premeditated murder. The words crushed me like cinder blocks. Asterisk. Premeditated. Asterisk. My son had meticulously planned my death. He had calculated it, thought through every step, waited for the perfect moment, and he would have pulled it off if it hadn't been for Emma. Detective Miller, I said, my voice shaking. There is something else I need to tell you. Go ahead. When Ethan was 19, he forged my signature to open a $3,000 credit card. I never reported it. I paid the debt off myself. Do you have proof of that? I have the old statements saved in a file box. I kept them. Because a part of me always knew something was terribly wrong with Ethan. I just never wanted to accept it. Send me those documents too. It all adds up. It builds a psychological and financial profile of your son. A profile of a man who has been willing to commit fraud against his own mother for personal gain since he was a teenager. Will this help the case? Tremendously. It establishes a pattern of behavior. It shows Ethan has a history of deceiving and exploiting his own mother for financial benefit. I hung up the phone and sat on Linda's couch, staring blankly at the wall. Everything was coming to light. Everything I had hidden, everything I had justified, everything I had forgiven. And now I understood something fundamental. I hadn't done my son any favors by protecting him. I had done him a terrible disservice. I had taught him that consequences didn't apply to him, that there would always be someone me cleaning up his messes, that money was more important than relationships. That lying was perfectly fine as long as you got away with it. I had taught him all of that without saying a single word, only through my actions, my silence, my misguided love. That afternoon, I spent 3 hours digging through documents at my house, supervised by Linda, who absolutely insisted on coming with me. "You are not going in there alone," she told me, "just in case Ethan is waiting for you." But my house was empty, silent, and sad. I went into my bedroom and opened the filing cabinet where I kept all my important paperwork. There they were, Ethan's texts begging for cash, the bank wire transfer receipts, the statements from the credit card he had fraudulently opened, and handwritten notes where I had tallied every time I lent him cash over the decades. I added it all up, $32,000 in total. $32,000 that I had given my son in loans he never repaid. And still, it wasn't enough. He still wanted more. He wanted it all, even if it meant burying me to get it. I scanned all the documents and emailed them to Detective Miller. His reply came an hour later. Asterisk received. This is pure gold for the DA. With this, I can easily get a warrant to subpoena his bank accounts and see exactly what he spent that money on. I can also pull his credit report to see if he's hiding massive debts. Excellent work, Mrs. Reynolds. I know this is excruciating, but you are doing the right thing. Asterisk. Asterisk, the right thing. Asterisk, I didn't even know what that meant anymore. That evening, back at Linda's house, I received a phone call from a number I didn't recognize. I hesitated before answering. "Hello? Mrs. Alice Reynolds?" "Yes, speaking. This is Miss Gallagher, Emma's second-grade teacher. I am so sorry to bother you, but I really needed to speak with you." My heart stopped. "Did something happen to Emma?" No, she's physically fine. But today at school, she was very withdrawn. She didn't play at recess. She didn't participate in class. And when I asked her if everything was okay at home, she burst into tears. Asterisk. Oh, dear God. Asterisk. I asked her what was wrong, and she told me, "My grandma isn't coming back, and my daddy is really mad. Do you have any idea what she's talking about?" Tears began to roll down my cheeks. Poor Emma. She was feeling the crushing tension. She was suffering the consequences of her father's actions, and there was nothing I could do to shield her from it. "Miss Gallagher, our family situation is extremely volatile right now. I appreciate you calling me so much. I'm going to try to speak with Emma very soon. Are you certain she is safe? Because if there is some kind of domestic issue at home, she is safe physically. But emotionally, this is going to be incredibly traumatic for her. I understand your concern. Well, I just wanted you to know. I'll keep a very close eye on Emma here at school. Thank you, Miss Gallagher. Truly." I hung up and collapsed back onto the couch. Linda looked at me with immense sorrow. That little girl has no blame in any of this. I know. And she's going to suffer for a crime she didn't commit. She's going to lose her father, possibly her mother, too. Her life is going to be altered forever because of Ethan's greed. Are you going to call her? I can't. If Ethan or Paige sees that I'm calling, they'll use it against me. They'll tell their lawyers I'm trying to manipulate Emma, or that I'm weaponizing the child against them. So what are you going to do? Wait. Wait for the police to do their job, and pray to God that Emma can forgive me someday for destroying her family. Although, her family was already destroyed long before I ever walked into that police precinct. I just happened to be the one who finally pulled back the curtain. That night, alone in the guest room, I opened the photo gallery on my phone and stared at the pictures I had saved of Ethan. Baby Ethan, sleeping soundly against my chest. Little boy Ethan on his first day of school. Teenage Ethan on graduation day. Adult Ethan on his wedding day. And in every single photo, I was right there next to him, smiling, proud, blissfully happy, having no clue that the child I loved so deeply would morph into the man who tried to end my life. I deleted the photos, every single one of them, because I needed to let go of the son who never really existed. I needed to let go of the fantasy. I needed to accept the brutal reality. Ethan did not love me. Maybe he never did. He only needed me. And when my usefulness ran out, when I became a roadblock between him and a payout, he decided to eliminate me. It was that simple, that painful, that devastatingly clear. The call came on Tuesday morning, 5 days after I had filed the police report. It was Detective Miller. Mrs. Reynolds. We have enough evidence. We are moving in to arrest your son today at 3 p.m. at his corporate office. My heart skipped a beat. Today? Yes. The arrest warrant is signed by a judge. We have Frank's sworn testimony, the forensics report on the vehicle, the financial documents you provided, and something else we uncovered during the financial probe. What did you uncover? Your son has gambling debts exceeding $80,000. He owes money to offshore betting sites, private bookies, very dangerous people. He is financially desperate. That was his true motivation. $80,000. My son was a degenerate gambler, and I never had the slightest clue. Does Paige know? According to our investigation, yes. There are massive wire transfers from their joint checking account to online sportsbooks. She was entirely aware of the financial ruin. So, you're arresting her too. We are arresting her as an accessory before the fact. No, I said immediately. Paige. Please. Detective. Ma'am, she knew exactly what her husband was planning. We pulled their text records. There are messages between them discussing the insurance payout and waiting for the right time. She is legally an accessory. But Emma. What is going to happen to Emma? As I told you before, Child Protective Services will take temporary custody, and they will very likely place her with you if you petition for an emergency kinship placement. Emma, my sweet little granddaughter who deserved absolutely none of this. Can I be there when they arrest them? I want to take Emma immediately. I don't want CPS agents treating her like she's some orphan in the system. The detective remained silent for a moment. It's highly irregular protocol, but I understand your concern. What I can do is coordinate this so you go pick Emma up from her elementary school at 2:30 p.m., right before we execute the arrest warrant on Paige at her house. That way, the child sees absolutely nothing involving police. Thank you. Thank you so much, Detective Miller. Don't mention it. Are you ready for this, Mrs. Reynolds? No. But I have to do it anyway. That's right. One last thing. After the arrest, Ethan and Paige will be given their phone calls from booking. It is highly likely they will try to contact you from the county jail. Do not pick up. Do not go down to see them. Do not speak a single word to them without the district attorney present. Do you understand me? I understand. I will meet you at the precinct at 5 p.m. to sign the emergency custody paperwork. Go get your granddaughter. Everything is going to be okay. I hung up the phone with shaking hands. Linda was sitting across the table, watching me with wide, worried eyes. What happened? They're arresting Ethan and Paige today. I have to go pick up Emma before it goes down. I'm going with you. No, Linda. I need to do this alone. At 2 p.m., I stood in front of the mirror in Linda's guest bedroom. I looked different, older, more haggard, profoundly sadder, but also stronger. I had lost my son. I was about to lose the only intact family I had left. But I had saved my own life. And that had to count for something. I fixed my hair, put on a little lipstick. I wanted to look completely normal for Emma. I wanted her to look at me in that school hallway and not sense the absolute devastation tearing me apart inside. I arrived at Emma's elementary school at 2:30 sharp. The secretary looked up at me in surprise. Mrs. Reynolds? Are you here to pick up Emma? Yes. Her mother asked me to grab her today. The secretary typed on her keyboard. I don't have any note on file here. Did Paige call the office? Yes, this morning. It's a family emergency. The secretary hesitated. Let me just give Paige a quick call to confirm. My heart hammered against my ribs. Asterisk. Please. Please don't let her answer. Asterisk. It's just standard protocol, ma'am. It'll just take a second. She picked up the receiver and dialed Paige's cell. I prayed, silently. Asterisk, don't pick up. Don't pick up. Asterisk, the phone rang 6 times. No answer. The secretary left a quick voicemail and looked back at me apologetically. I'm so sorry, Mrs. Reynolds, but I legally cannot release Emma to you without verbal or written authorization from a custodial parent. I'm her grandmother. I have the right to take her. I completely understand, but the district has strict liability rules, unless you have a court order or CPS documentation authorizing the pickup. I thought quickly. That's fine. I'll just wait right here in the lobby until Paige returns your call. In the meantime, could you let Emma know I'm here? Maybe she'd like to come say hi? The secretary nodded, relieved to have a compromise. Of course. I'll page Miss Gallagher. 5 minutes later, Emma came practically skipping down the hallway. Grandma! I dropped to one knee and wrapped my arms around her tightly. Hello, my sweet girl. How are you? Good. Did you come to pick me up early? Yes, honey. Your mommy asked me to get you today. Really? She didn't tell me that this morning. It was a last-minute change of plans. Miss Gallagher walked out behind her, looking deeply concerned. Mrs. Reynolds, is everything all right? Yes, Miss Gallagher. I just came to pick Emma up a bit early. The front desk mentioned you didn't have authorization. Right at that exact second, my phone rang. It was Detective Miller. Excuse me, Miss Gallagher, I have to take this. I stepped a few feet away. Detective Miller. Mrs. Reynolds, do you have Emma? Not yet. The school won't release her to me without Paige's authorization. All right. I'm dispatching a uniform officer with an emergency temporary custody order signed by a family court judge. He'll be there in 10 minutes. Just sit tight. Thank you. I hung up and walked back over to Emma and her teacher. Miss Gallagher, a police officer is on his way with the necessary legal paperwork. Can we just wait here in the lobby? Miss Gallagher paled. A police officer? What is going on? It's a very complicated family matter, but Emma is not in any physical danger. She is just going to be staying with me temporarily. Emma looked up at me, her big eyes swimming with confusion. Grandma, why is the police coming? I crouched back down to her eye level and took her tiny hands in mine. Sweetheart, I need you to trust me, okay? Some things are going to happen today that you aren't going to understand, but I need you to know that everything is going to be okay. I am going to take care of you. And my mom and dad? Your parents. Your parents are having some grown-up problems right now, but you are going to be safe with me. I'm going to sleep at your house? Yes, my love. For a little while. How long? I don't know yet, but we are going to be together, okay? She nodded, though I could see the raw fear pooling in her eyes. The patrol officer arrived 15 minutes later. He was a young cop in full uniform, carrying a manila folder. Alice Reynolds? Yes, that's me. I have the emergency temporary custody order for the minor, Emma Reynolds. He looked down. Is this the child? He handed the paperwork to the school secretary. She reviewed the judge's signature with a grim expression, then nodded. Everything is in order. Emma, you can go with your grandmother, Mrs. Reynolds. Thank you. I took Emma's hand and we walked out the double-glass doors. She walked in complete silence, looking back over her shoulder every few steps. Grandma. Why was that man wearing a police uniform? Because he was helping me with some very important adult paperwork. My love, do my mom and dad know I'm going with you? They will know very soon. We reached my rental car. I buckled her into the back seat. She looked up at me, her eyes welling with tears. Grandma, I'm scared. My heart shattered all over again. I know, my sweet girl. I'm scared too, but we are going to be okay. I promise you. I drove back to Linda's house in total silence. Emma stared out the passenger window, not saying a word, and I cried silently, wiping the tears away every few minutes so she wouldn't see me breaking down in the rearview mirror. At 3:30 p.m., while Emma was eating a grilled cheese sandwich in Linda's kitchen, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Detective Miller. Ethan Reynolds, arrested at 3:05 p.m. at his place of employment. Paige Reynolds arrested at 3:20 p.m. at her residence. Both are currently in police custody. I need you down at the precinct at 5 to sign the final paperwork. It was over. My son was under arrest. My granddaughter's mother was under arrest. And I was the catalyst for all of it. At 4 p.m., my cell phone rang. The caller ID said Times County Jail. Inmate call *. I didn't answer. It rang again 5 minutes later. I ignored it again. Then came the voicemails. The first was from Ethan, *. Mom, what the hell did you do? How could you do this to me? I'm your son, your own flesh and blood, and you sent me to a jail cell like I'm some kind of street criminal. Pick up the phone. We have to fix this, Mom, please. Asterisk. His voice was desperate, broken. For a fleeting second, it almost worked. Almost. But then I remembered the cleanly sliced brake lines, the puddle of brake fluid on the concrete, Emma's face telling me, asterisk, don't get in the car. Asterisk. And I deleted the voicemail. The second message was from Paige. Asterisk Alice, I cannot believe you did this. Emma is my daughter. You have no right to take her. I am going to fight you for full custody. I am going to prove to a judge that you belong in a psych ward, that you completely fabricated this because you're a bitter, controlling old hag who just wants to destroy my family. Asterisk. Her voice dripped with pure, unadulterated venom. I deleted that message too. At 5 p.m., I arrived at the police precinct. I left Emma at Linda's house, where Linda had put on an animated movie to distract her. Detective Miller was waiting for me in his office. Mrs. Reynolds. Have a seat, please. I sat down, my legs trembling violently. How are you holding up? Like I just destroyed the entire world. You didn't destroy anything. You simply exposed the truth. My granddaughter is crying for her parents. She doesn't understand what happened. How do I even begin to explain something like this to her? With honesty, but tailored to her age level. She doesn't need the gruesome details. She just needs to know she is safe with you. And how long are Ethan and Paige going to be locked up? The bail hearing is tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. The district attorney is going to request that bail be denied entirely, arguing that they present a clear and present danger to the primary victim, which is you. But ultimately, the judge will decide. If they are granted bail, they will be issued an immediate restraining order. They will not be legally allowed to come within 500 feet of you or Emma. If they violate it, they will be thrown right back in a cell. When is the actual trial? Probably in 3 or 4 months. The legal system moves slowly. In the meantime, your emergency kinship placement of Emma will be converted into formal temporary custody if you officially petition for it. I will petition for it. Perfect. Here are the documents I need you to sign. I spent the next 30 minutes signing my name on dotted lines. Documents swearing to my official statement. Documents petitioning for formal custody of Emma. Documents authorizing the DA to use my financial records in a criminal trial. Every single signature was another nail in Ethan's coffin. But there was no turning back now. When I walked out of the precinct, the sun was setting. The sky was painted in vivid strokes of orange and pink. I sat down on a concrete bench outside the station and wept. I wept for everything I had lost. For the son who had mutated into a monster. For the family dynamic that would never, ever be repaired. For Emma's innocence, which had been permanently shattered. But I also cried tears of profound relief. Because I had done the right thing. Because I had saved my own life. Because I had broken the generational cycle of silence and toxic complicity. And even though it hurt more than I ever thought humanly possible, I felt free. That night, I tucked Emma into the bed in the guest room. She hugged me fiercely before drifting off. Grandma. Do you love me? More than anything in this entire world, my sweet girl. And do my mom and dad love me? That question ripped my soul to shreds. Yes, my love. In their own way, they do love you. Then why aren't they here? Because sometimes, grown-ups make very, very big mistakes. And when they do, they have to face the consequences of those mistakes. What kind of mistakes? Mistakes that hurt other people. Mistakes that can't just be ignored. Did my dad hurt someone? I took a deep, shaky breath. Yes, my love. He tried to hurt someone. Emma looked at me, her eyes widening in horror. My dad tried to hurt you? He tried to, but he couldn't, and now he has to accept the consequences. Are they going to put him in jail? Probably, yes, for a long time. I don't know for sure yet. She began to sob. I don't want my dad to be in jail, even if he did something bad. I wrapped my arms around her tightly. I don't want that either, sweetheart. I really don't. But sometimes life puts us in situations where there are no good choices, only necessary ones. I don't understand. I know. And it's perfectly okay that you don't understand. You are far too little to have to understand things this heavy. But I need you to trust me, okay? Trust that everything I am doing is to protect you and to protect myself. She nodded against my chest, her tears soaking my shirt. I love you, Grandma. I love you too, my sweet girl. So much. I rocked her until she finally fell asleep, and when her swollen, tear-stained eyes finally closed, I sat there beside her, watching the steady rise and fall of her chest, watching her innocent little face, and I made a silent vow. I promised myself I would do absolutely everything in my power to ensure this little girl didn't grow up infected with the same poison that had corrupted her father. I promised I would teach her that money is never more valuable than a human life, that love is not about control or possession, that our mistakes carry massive consequences, and that telling the truth, no matter how much it hurts, is the only way to live a life of dignity. The bail hearing was the following morning. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to look at Ethan's face. I didn't want to listen to his lawyer's pathetic excuses. But Detective Miller told me it was vital for the judge to see me, to look the victim in the eye and understand that this wasn't some abstract domestic dispute. It was a cold, calculated assassination attempt. So I went. I left Emma at Linda's house, and I walked into the county courthouse at 9:30 a.m. The courtroom was freezing cold, gray walls, hard wooden benches. I sat in the front row, directly behind the prosecutor's table. And when the bailiffs brought Ethan in, my heart stopped. He was wearing an Orange County jail jumpsuit. His wrists were handcuffed to a belly chain. His hair was disheveled, a scruffy beard forming on his jaw. He looked exhausted, defeated, pathetic. But when his eyes finally locked onto mine, I saw it. Pure, unadulterated hatred. Paige was brought in next, wearing the identical uniform. She carried the same expression of barely contained, explosive rage. The judge, an older man with reading glasses and a stern scowl, reviewed the docket. Case number 3457. The State of Nevada versus Ethan Robert Reynolds and Paige Reynolds. Charges: attempted murder in the first degree and accessory to attempted murder. How do the defendants plead? The public defender, a young guy in a cheap suit, stood up. Not guilty, Your Honor. Very well. Moving to the matter of bail. Prosecution, what is the state's position? The district attorney stood up. Your Honor, the state strongly requests that bail be denied entirely. The defendant, Ethan Reynolds, intentionally sabotaged the brake lines of his own mother's vehicle with the explicit intent of causing a fatal automobile accident. We have forensic evidence confirming the tampering, sworn testimony from a certified mechanic, and overwhelming documentation establishing a profound financial motive. The defendant has accumulated over $80,000 in illicit gambling debts, while simultaneously being the sole beneficiary of the victim's $300,000 life insurance policy. The co-defendant, Paige Reynolds, has text messages on her cellular device explicitly discussing this plot with her husband. Both defendants represent a clear, present, and extreme danger to the victim's life. The judge peered down at Ethan with intense severity. Is it true that you hold $80,000 in gambling debt? The defense attorney jumped in. Giant, my client admits to having financial liabilities, Your Honor, but being in debt does not make a man a murderer. The state's evidence is entirely circumstantial. There is no direct proof tying my client to the severed brake lines. It is pure speculation. We have the mechanic's testimony, the DA fired back. The lines were cleanly cut. The defendant had exclusive, uninterrupted access to the vehicle while it was parked in his garage for 2 consecutive nights. Furthermore, the defendant's own minor child witnessed him underneath the vehicle with tools and a flashlight late at night. The judge looked past the lawyers, directly at me. Are you Alice Reynolds, the mother of the defendant? I stood up, my knees knocking together. Yes, Your Honor. Do you fear for your physical safety if these 2 individuals are released on bond? Yes, Your Honor. My son sent me a threatening text message from a burner phone mere hours after I filed the police report. I am terrified of what he might do if he is let out. Ethan lost his mind. He lunged toward the railing, screaming at the top of his lungs. Mom, please, don't do this! I'm your son! The judge slammed his gavel down like a thunderclap. Order! Mr. Reynolds, one more outburst like that and I will have you removed from my courtroom. Ethan ducked his head, but I could see his entire body shaking with fury. The judge reviewed the files for several agonizing minutes that felt like hours. Finally, he spoke into his microphone. Considering the extreme severity of these charges, the forensic evidence presented, the established financial motive, and the severe risk of retaliation against the primary victim, Bail is hereby denied for both defendants. They will remain in county custody pending trial. Preliminary hearing is set for March 15th. Court is adjourned. He slammed the gavel again. Paige broke down into hysterical, ugly sobs. Ethan slowly turned his head to look at me. He gave me a look I will never, ever forget until the day I die. And he mouthed a sentence that only I could read on his lips. Asterisk. This isn't over. Asterisk. I walked out of the courthouse, shaking like a leaf. Detective Miller was waiting for me by the metal detectors. You okay, Mrs. Reynolds? No. But I will be. You did the right thing today. You keep telling me that, but it never actually feels like the right thing. It never feels right to send your own kid to a concrete cell, but it was absolutely necessary. With time, you'll come to peace with it. And Emma? How do I explain to a little girl that her parents are going to be locked in cages for months? With the truth. Little by little. With the help of a child psychologist, if necessary. She is going to be fine. Because she has you to love her. And at the end of the day, that is all that matters. I nodded, unable to formulate a response. Go home, Alice. Get some rest. I will keep you posted on any new developments. Thank you, Detective. I drove back to Linda's house with my mind entirely blank. I didn't feel sadness. I didn't feel rage. I didn't feel anything. Only a deep, echoing void where a family used to be. That afternoon, I sat with Emma in Linda's backyard. Sweetheart, I need to talk to you about something really important. She stopped playing with her Barbie doll and looked at me, dead serious. What happened, Grandma? Your mom and Dad are going to have to stay in a special place for a while. A place where people go to think about the very bad choices they've made. Jail. I blinked in shock. Who told you that? I heard Aunt Linda talking on the phone. She said my mom and Dad were in jail. I let out a long, heavy sigh. Yes. My sweet girl, your parents are in jail. For how long? I don't know yet. But it could be for a very long time. And I am going to be the one taking care of you now. Can I stay with you forever? If that's what you want, what if I don't want to? That question stung worse than I anticipated. Then we would find another solution. But I would love for you to stay with me, because I love you with all my heart, and I want to protect you. Emma stayed quiet for a moment, her little gears turning. Grandma, is my dad a bad person? No, my love. Your dad is not inherently a bad person, but he did a very, very bad thing. And there is a big difference between being a monster and making a monstrous choice. What did he do? He tried to hurt someone, and that is never, ever okay, no matter what reasons you think you have. Did he try to hurt you? Why? Because of money? Yes, because of money, because of material things that, in the end, don't actually matter. Emma looked at me with those ancient, wise eyes that children sometimes possess. My teacher says money can't buy happiness. Your teacher is incredibly smart. My dad didn't know that, did he? I think he forgot it. I think he got lost somewhere along the way. Am I going to get lost too? I dropped to my knees in the grass and grabbed both her little hands. No, my sweet girl. You are never going to get lost. Because I am going to be right here, every single day, to remind you what is actually important in this life. People, love, honesty, kindness. Those are the things that matter. Not money. Not big houses or fancy cars. Do you promise? I promise with my whole life. She threw her arms around my neck and hugged me fiercely. And in that exact second, I understood something profound. This little girl was my second chance. My chance to raise a human being with entirely different values. To teach the lessons I fundamentally failed to teach Ethan. To break the curse. That night, while Emma was fast asleep, I sat at the kitchen island with a mug of tea and a notebook, and I wrote a letter. Not to Ethan. He didn't deserve my words right now. I wrote a letter to Emma, for her to read when she was much older. Asterisk, dear Emma, asterisk, asterisk. If you are reading this, you are probably a grown woman now, and you probably have a million questions about what happened when you were just a little girl. I want you to know the absolute truth. Asterisk, asterisk. Your father tried to end my life for a payout, not because he was a monster, not because he was born without a heart, but because he lost his way, because he confused financial status with actual happiness. Because greed ate him alive from the inside out. Asterisk. Asterisk. And I am partially to blame for that. I accidentally taught him that there would always be someone around to clean up his messes, that consequences were optional. That love meant bailing him out, no matter how terribly he behaved. Asterisk. I was wrong. Asterisk. Love is paramount, yes. But so are boundaries. So is personal responsibility. So are consequences. Asterisk. Asterisk. When I reported your father to the police, I didn't do it out of vengeance or spite. I did it to survive. And I did it to teach you the most important lesson of your life. You must never, ever stay silent when someone abuses you. Even if that someone shares your blood, even if they are family. Asterisk. Asterisk. I hope that someday you can find it in your heart to forgive me for tearing apart the family you knew. But I will never apologize for saving my own life. I will never apologize for protecting you from that environment. I will never apologize for breaking the silence. Asterisk. Asterisk. I hope I managed to teach you that a person's worth is not defined by the balance of their checking account, that happiness cannot be bought on a credit card, that integrity is infinitely more valuable than corporate success. Asterisk. Asterisk. If I managed to teach you that, then every tear I shed was worth it. Asterisk. Asterisk. I love you more than language can possibly express. Asterisk. Asterisk. Love. Always. Asterisk. Asterisk. Your grandma, Alice. Asterisk. I folded the letter and sealed it inside a crisp white envelope. Someday, when Emma was old enough to process the trauma, I would give it to her, and I prayed to God she would understand. 3 months passed, 3 grueling months where life slowly forced itself into a new rhythm. Emma started seeing a child psychologist twice a week. At first, she refused to speak at all, but slowly, week by week, she began to open up. I started going to therapy as well. I desperately needed to process the sheer magnitude of the betrayal. I needed to understand the exact roadmap of how we got to this point. And more than anything, I needed to learn how to forgive myself. The criminal trial began in March, exactly as the judge had promised. It lasted 3 agonizing days. The district attorney presented a mountain of irrefutable evidence: the cleanly severed brake lines, Frank's expert testimony, the damning text messages between Ethan and Paige discussing life insurance payouts, the $80,000 in crippling gambling debts. The public defender tried his best to argue that it was all entirely circumstantial, that nobody had physically recorded Ethan holding a knife to the brake lines, but when they called Emma to testify, it was over. They placed her in a special, remote room with a closed-circuit video feed so she wouldn't have to look her parents in the eye. And with her tiny, trembling voice, she recounted exactly what she had witnessed. Asterisk. I saw my dad under my grandma's car. It was really late at night. He had a big flashlight and tools. He was under there for a super long time. And when he stood up, he wiped his hands on a black rag. Asterisk. Her testimony was the final nail in the coffin. It was utterly devastating. The jury deliberated for exactly 6 hours. The verdict was unanimous on all counts. Guilty. The judge sentenced Ethan to 15 years in a state penitentiary without the possibility of early parole. Paige received 8 years in a women's correctional facility as an accessory before the fact. When the judge read the sentencing, Paige collapsed at the defense table, wailing hysterically. Ethan stood completely still, his face an emotionless mask of stone. And me? I felt something strange wash over my body. It wasn't joy. It wasn't the sick satisfaction of revenge. It was peace. A heavy, profoundly sorrowful peace. But peace nonetheless. 2 weeks after the trial concluded, I received a letter in the mail. The return address was the state penitentiary. I opened it with shaking hands. Mom, asterisk, I don't know why I'm writing this to you. Maybe because sitting in this cell, I finally have nothing but time to think, to look back at my life with brutal clarity. Asterisk, asterisk. You were right, about everything. I lost my way. I became completely obsessed with having more, being more, showing off more, and I entirely forgot what actually mattered in this world. Asterisk, asterisk. I spent 33 years holding a grudge against you for what we didn't have, for the poverty of my childhood, for the holes in my sneakers and the secondhand clothes. But I never once thanked you for what we did have: a roof over my head, hot meals, unconditional love. I never once thanked you for working 3 back-breaking jobs just so I could go to a good school, for your sleepless nights, for your endless, bone-deep sacrifices. Asterisk. Asterisk. I only ever focused on what was missing. I never appreciated what was abundant. Asterisk. Asterisk. And when you finally got some money, when Grandma left you that inheritance, I didn't see a tired mother who could finally retire and rest. I saw an obstacle, a roadblock standing between me and the payout I felt entitled to. Asterisk. Asterisk. I can't justify what I did to you. I can't even fully comprehend the darkness it took to go through with it. I just know I was drowning in debt, terrified of the bookies, and I chose the most evil way out imaginable. Asterisk. Asterisk. I don't expect you to ever forgive me. I don't deserve your forgiveness. I just want you to know that sitting here in this concrete box, I finally realized something. The only thing of true, immeasurable value in my entire life was you. And I destroyed it. Asterisk. Asterisk. Take good care of Emma. Teach her the lessons I was too arrogant to learn. Teach her that human beings are worth more than dollar signs. Asterisk. Asterisk. I love you, Mom, even though I lost the right to say it a long time ago. Asterisk. Ethan. I read that letter 3 times over. And I cried. They weren't tears of forgiveness, I wasn't there yet, but they were tears of recognition. He had finally understood. It was a decade too late, but the message had finally landed. 6 months later, I received a phone call from the prison warden's office. Mrs. Reynolds, I am calling to inform you that inmate Ethan Reynolds has formally requested a visitation with you. He stated he wishes to apologize to you in person. You are under zero obligation to accept the request. How is he doing? He's been working daily in the prison's woodworking shop. He has a clean disciplinary record, and he is actively participating in behavioral therapy. He claims he is genuinely trying to rehabilitate himself. And Paige? She is housed at a different facility. I cannot comment on her status. I remained silent. A part of me wanted to see Ethan. I wanted to look him in the eye and hear the apology fall from his lips. Let me think about it, I finally said. Take all the time you need, ma'am. I brought it up in my next therapy session. Do you want to see him? My therapist asked. I honestly don't know. A part of me does, but another part is terrified. Terrified of what? That he'll manipulate me again, that he'll try to guilt-trip me into fighting for his appeal, that we'll fall right back into the same toxic cycle. And what would need to happen for you to feel safe in that room? I chewed on that question for days, and eventually I came to a profound realization. I didn't need to see Ethan to heal. I didn't need his apology to move forward with my life. I had already grieved the death of our relationship. I had already buried the son who never really existed. I was already at peace. A year after the trial, I received a call from the prison staff psychologist. Mrs. Reynolds, your son asked me to reach out to you. He has been writing letters as part of his 1-2-step program. Apology letters to everyone he has harmed. He has one written for you, but he doesn't want to mail it unless you are emotionally prepared to receive it. How is his mental state? Different, much more humble, highly self-aware. Prison has fundamentally changed him, and surprisingly, not entirely for the worse. He is doing the heavy lifting in therapy. I am genuinely glad to hear that. Would you like me to send the letter? No, I said softly, but firmly. Please thank him for the gesture, but I am not ready to read it, and I don't know if I ever will be. I completely understand. I will relay the message. Is there anything else you'd like me to tell him? What is it? Tell him that I wish him the best, that I truly hope he finds inner peace, but that I need to walk the rest of my path without him. I will tell him exactly that. Take care of yourself, Mrs. Reynolds. Thank you, you too. And just like that, the universe administered its own brand of justice, not with petty vengeance, not with hatred, but with the brutal weight of natural consequences. Ethan lost his freedom for 15 years. He lost his wife, his daughter, his reputation, his career. He lost every single thing he ever possessed. And sitting in that agonizing void, in that absolute isolation, he was finally forced to face his own reflection. He had to look at the decisions he made, the greed that consumed his soul, and the mother he tried to butcher for a payout. Life always collects its debts. And sometimes, the ultimate punishment isn't the prison cell itself. It's the deafening silence we leave behind. It has been 2 years since that terrifying Sunday morning when I almost got into my car. 2 years since my 7-year-old granddaughter saved my life with a passing observation. Today, Emma is 9. She doesn't cry herself to sleep anymore. She no longer asks when her parents are coming to pick her up. She has learned to navigate this new reality, and so have I. We are sitting on the back patio of my new house, a modest, sun-drenched little home far away from Oak Creek Estates and its painful memories. Emma is scribbling away at her math homework. I am sipping my coffee, just watching her. She has the exact same dark, expressive eyes Ethan had at her age, but when I look into them, I see something radically different. I see immense kindness. I see raw compassion. I see a deep, ingrained empathy. The exact traits I tried so desperately to instill in my son, and failed. But with Emma, I have a second chance. "Grandma, can I ask you a question?" she says, not lifting her pencil from her notebook. "Of course, sweetie. Did you forgive my dad?" I gently set my coffee mug down on the patio table. It's a question I've been asked dozens of times, by my therapist, by Linda, even by Detective Miller. Forgiveness is very complicated, my love. I answer with total honesty. It's not a magic switch you can just flip overnight. It is a long, slow process. But are you going to forgive him someday? Maybe, when I am fully ready, when my heart has completely healed. But you have to remember, forgiving someone doesn't mean forgetting what they did, and it doesn't mean letting them back into your life to hurt you again. Do I times have to forgive him? I look at her with overwhelming tenderness. That is a choice only you can make, when you are much older and when you fully understand the whole story. You don't have to rush it. Nobody can force you to forgive. She nods thoughtfully and returns to her math problems. But I know that question will bubble up again and again, year after year, until she finally discovers her own answer. Last week, the prison psychologist called me again. "Mrs. Reynolds, I just wanted to update you. Your son is spearheading a restorative justice program. He is building custom furniture for low-income families in the area. He says it's his way of putting something good back into a world he took so much from." I am truly glad to hear that. He also asked me to inquire if Emma might ever want to see him. Not right now, but maybe when she is a teenager. That is more than fair. I will let him know. Also, how are things with Paige? She was granted early parole last month. She served 5 years. She's living with her sister a few towns over. She's tried to contact Emma through social media a few times, but the permanent restraining order is still in effect. Yes, until Emma turns 18. Then it will be her choice whether or not she wants a relationship with her mother. Exactly. Paige told her parole officer that she accepts the boundaries, that she understands her actions caused this. I hope to God that's true. Yesterday, while cleaning out my desk, I found the letter I wrote to Emma 2 years ago. I reread it, and a sudden realization hit me. I didn't need to hoard it for the distant future anymore. She was ready. It was time to share it. That night, after dinner, I sat on the edge of Emma's bed. "Sweetheart, I have something for you." I handed her the sealed envelope. "What is it?" "It's a letter I wrote a long time ago, right after everything happened. I think you are finally old enough to read it." Emma carefully tore open the envelope and unfolded the stationery. I watched as her eyes darted back and forth across the page. I watched as her eyes filled with heavy tears, as her bottom lip began to quiver. When she finished the last sentence, she dropped the paper and threw her arms around my neck, squeezing me with all her might. "Thank you for saving your own life, Grandma," she sobbed into my shoulder. "Thank you for staying here with me." "No. Thank times you asterisk, my sweet girl," I whispered into her hair. "Thank you for having eyes that see, and the immense courage to speak up. I was brave? You were the bravest of us all. Braver than me." "Really?" "So much braver, because you were only 7 years old, and you weren't afraid to tell the truth. I was 59, and I had to learn that courage from you." We held each other in the quiet comfort of her bedroom, and in that beautiful, fragile moment, I knew with absolute certainty that the generational curse was finally broken. This little girl was going to grow up differently. She would grow up knowing that human beings are inherently more valuable than objects, that telling the brutal truth is infinitely more important than keeping the peace. That true, authentic love requires ironclad boundaries and real consequences. People ask me sometimes if I regret reporting my own son to the police, if the guilt eats me alive, and my answer is always the exact same. It hurts. It will probably hurt every single day until the day they put me in the ground. But I do not regret it. Because I chose my own life. I chose my dignity. I chose to shatter the silence. And that choice, no matter how agonizing it was the right one. If my story helps even one single woman out there open her eyes, recognize the glaring red flags, and finally say, "Time's enough," then every tear was worth it. If there is anyone listening to me right now who is trapped in a similar nightmare, I need you to know something. Your life matters. It doesn't matter who the person threatening you is. It doesn't matter if it's your son, your husband, your father, or your brother. Nobody on this earth has the right to take your life away. And staying silent does not protect you. It only protects your abuser. Speak up, file the report, ask for help, because your silence could cost you everything. Emma calls out to me from the kitchen. "Grandma, the cake is ready." I smile. Today is my birthday. 61 years old. 2 years longer than I would have lived if I had put the keys in the ignition of that Honda. 2 years of watching Emma grow, of laughing with Linda, of slowly piecing my shattered heart back together. 2 years of a life that was almost stolen from me for a paycheck. But I am here. I am alive. I am free. And I am at peace. I stand up and walk into the kitchen, where Emma is waiting for me with a massive, beaming smile and a lopsided chocolate cake she baked with her own 2 hands. "Happy birthday, Grandma." "Thank you, my beautiful girl." "Make a wish." I close my eyes in front of the flickering candles, and I don't wish for money. I don't wish for Ethan to be released from prison. I don't wish for a time machine to rewrite the past. I only wish for the wisdom to keep teaching Emma the lessons I had to learn the hardest way imaginable. That love without boundaries is not love, it's complicity. That forgiving someone does not mean forgetting the knife in your back. That consequences are the ultimate teacher, and that sometimes, to save your own life, you have to be willing to lose everything else. I blow out the candles, and Emma claps her hands in pure joy. Thank you for listening to my story all the way to the end. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe and hit the notification bell to hear more stories of women who transformed their deepest pain into ultimate wisdom. Every day a new woman, every day a new life lesson. Share this video with someone you love. Sometimes, a story like this is exactly what someone needs to change the course of their life. May God bless you, and I will see you in the next one.